We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. World Economic Forum set to begin in Davos from Monday under the theme A Spirit of Dialogue, India to focus on digital innovation, sustainable energy transitions and infrastructure development. 8 European nations stood in solidarity with Denmark and Greenland following US President Donald Trump's tariffs threat. Two high-speed trains derailed in southern Spain, at least 21 people killed. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez terms it as a night of deep pain. UAE President Sheikh Mohamed bin Zayed Al Nahyan arrives today to hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister Modi. And on to the details now. The World Economic Forum annual meeting 2026 is set to begin in Davos on Monday. The 5-day summit will run until January 23rd. Event is being held under the theme A Spirit of Dialogue, with a focus on cooperation in a contested world, innovation-led growth and inclusive development. The Swiss federal government, together with the WEF Foundation and its other partners, will contribute to the cost of WEF annual meeting security measures for the period 2025 to 2027 as part of a 3-tier finance model. The attendees include approximately 200 to 300 internationally protected persons such as heads of state and government, ministers and high-level representatives of international organizations. Well, security is like never before in this edition. More than 5,000 armed forces personnel, snipers, AI-powered drones and special tools to counter spywares and espionage are placed. More than 500 journalists are also at Davos to cover the event. Demonstrations are also part of the summit. This time, Swiss government are willing to authorize demonstrations, but it is essential that requirements to protect people, infrastructure and property are respected. So in order to hold a demonstration, detailed arrangements need to be made between the organizers and the authorities. Well, India is set to mount one of its strongest representations at this year's World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos as union ministers, state chief ministers and more than 100 corporate leaders are attending. Union Minister Prahlad Joshi, K. Ram Mohan Naidu and Maharashtra's Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis have already arrived at Zurich in Switzerland. In a post on X, Devendra Fadnavis said that he was deeply touched by the enthusiastic welcome and affectionate traditional greeting. And moving on, European leaders continue to weigh their response to US President Donald Trump's tariff threats over Greenland. The EU leaders will convene an extraordinary summit in Brussels on Thursday to discuss the bloc's response to US. The leaders have already decided to defend against any form of coercion while continuing to engage constructively with the United States. Meanwhile, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and other members said on Sunday the EU and Britain stand firm in their commitment to uphold the sovereignty of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark. Well, on Saturday, Trump vowed to implement a wave of increasing tariffs on EU members, Denmark, Sweden, France, Germany, the Netherlands and Finland, along with Britain and Norway from February 1st until the US is allowed to buy the vast Arctic island. Now, leaders of both Denmark and Greenland have insisted the island is not for sale and does not want to be part of the United States. And the Syrian government and the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces agreed on an immediate and comprehensive ceasefire on all fronts on Sunday. Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa on Sunday announced the truce with the chief of Kurdish-led forces, taking almost full control of the country and dismantling the Kurdish-led forces that controlled the northeast for over a decade. Speaking in Damascus, Syrian President al-Sharaa said the deal would allow Syrian state institutions to reassert control over 3 eastern and northern governorates, al-Hasak, Deir Azor and Raqqa. Well, under the agreement signed by al-Sharaa and Abdi, Syrian authorities will take over civilian institutions, border crossings and oil and gas fields that have underpinned Kurdish self-rule. The agreement will also see the Kurdish administration and forces integrate into the state after months of stalled negotiations on the issue. Syrian Kurdish leader Mazloum Abdi, in a televised address, said he agreed to the deal to avoid a broader conflict. Abdi said he's set to meet Sharaa in Damascus on Monday. Meanwhile, U.S. envoy Tom Barrack on Sunday called the ceasefire agreed to by the Syrian government and the Syrian Democratic Forces a pivotal inflection point. Barrack, who had met Kurdish leaders in Erbil in northern Iraq, was holding talks with Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa in Damascus over the latest developments as Washington urged the two sides to de-escalate. And in Minnesota, immigration and custom enforcement agents continued their raids in St. Paul area. Increasingly tense confrontations between residents and federal officers have erupted in Minneapolis since Rennie Good, a 37-year-old woman, was fatally shot by an ICE officer on January 7th. In another incident, protesters, including postal workers, rallied outside the Minneapolis post office, calling on U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement to stop using postal property for its operations. The protest followed rising tensions after Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act, accusing state leaders of failing to rein in attacks on immigration officers. While the Pentagon has ordered about 1,500 active duty soldiers in Alaska to prepare for a possible deployment to Minnesota, the Insurrection Act enables use of the military to suppress armed rebellion or domestic violence. At least 7 police officers and 1 suspected gang member were killed on Sunday as a wave of gang violence swept across Guatemala. The violence followed the security forces' recovery of a prison that had been seized by inmates on Saturday. Backed by the Guatemalan army, authorities regained control of the Renovation 1 detention on Saturday after rioting prisoners took hostages to demand greater privileges for their gang leader. Shortly after control was restored, simultaneous attacks on police officers erupted in and around the capital. And Ugandan authorities partially restored internet services after the state-run Uganda Communication Commission ordered a shutdown following President Yoweri Museveni's election victory. Now, the commission said the move was aimed at curbing misinformation, disinformation, electoral fraud and related risks. Several internet service providers said the regulator ordered the restoration of services. However, social media access remained blocked. The opposition condemned the shutdown as an attempt to control the electoral process. Election observers from the African Union and other regional blocs have also criticized the internet restrictions and the military's involvement in the election. And moving on, a collision between 2 high-speed trains carrying hundreds of passengers in southern Spain killed at least 21 people and injured more than 70 on Sunday, the official said. In a post on X, the Spain Transport Minister Oscar Puente said the impact has been terrible, causing the first 2 carriages of the Renfe train to be thrown off as a result. While Spain's Adif rail body said train between Malaga and Madrid went off the rails near Cordoba and slammed into a train coming from Madrid to Huelva. Adif has also suspected all rail services between Madrid and Andalusia According to officials, rescue operations are ongoing and injured passengers have been taken to 6 different hospitals. Calling it a night of deep pain for Spain, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez expressed deep sorrow and offered sincerest condolences. In a post on X, Pedro said, "Today is a night of deep pain for our country owing to the tragic rail accident in Adamas. I want to express my sincerest condolences to the families and loved ones of the victims. No word can alleviate such great suffering, but I want them to know that the whole country is by their side in this tough moment," he added. And in Pakistan, at least 6 people were killed and dozens are missing after a massive fire broke out at a shopping mall in Karachi, which led to the back part of the complex collapse. The fire broke out at shops inside the mall on Saturday night around 10 p.m. While 60 to 70% of the blaze has been controlled, search and rescue operations continue as fear persists that people may be trapped in the building. 6 bodies have been recovered so far and handed over to the families. A firefighter also lost his life during the rescue operation. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Well, South Africa has declared a national disaster after weeks of heavy rains triggered deadly floods, killing dozens and displacing thousands across the region. South Africa on Sunday declared a national disaster. Severe flooding caused by prolonged heavy rainfall killed more than 30 people in the Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces. Rivers overflowed, destroying homes, while thousands fled to neighboring Mozambique for safety. Rescue teams are searching for survivors as water levels begin to recede in some areas, including the Kruger National Park, which is set to partially reopen. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Polish Deputy Prime Minister arrives in New Delhi to hold talks with External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar on India-Poland strategic partnership. India marks 21st Raising Day of NDRF, celebrating 20 years of service by the nation's frontline disaster response force. An historic triumph in Bengaluru, a Tharvataide's century and pace attack seal first Vijay Hazare Trophy for Vidarbha.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
Exactly what save your.
We read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on. UAE President Sheikh Mohamed bin Zayed Al Nahyan will pay an official visit to India on Monday at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This will be his 3rd visit to India since assuming office as UAE President and the 5th in the past decade, reflecting the growing momentum in high-level bilateral engagements between the two nations. The visit is expected to further deepen the comprehensive strategic partnership and allow discussions on regional and global issues of mutual interest. And Polish Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski arrived in New Delhi on Monday after attending the Jaipur Literature Festival in Rajasthan. The Polish Deputy Prime Minister will meet India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Monday to discuss the India-Poland strategic partnership. Radoslaw Sikorski visited Jaipur from January 17 to 18th. At the Jaipur Literature Festival, Polish Deputy Prime Minister attended a session titled A Continent in Crisis, Russia, Ukraine and the European Story. Well, Australian High Commissioner to India, Philip Green, has said that ties between India and Australia have never been better, praising Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership for driving dramatic steps forward. Speaking to DD India correspondent Lakshya Arya, the Australian High Commissioner said that the relation between India and Australia have grown more stronger in the last decade. Take a listen.
Right in the JLF, we have Philip Green, the High Commissioner from Australia. Hi, Philip.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking to DD India. Speak about the bilateral relations about the India and Australia.
Yeah.
We see that in the last 1 decade, the relations has become more stronger. What's your honor?
That's true, and we're very excited that we had the first free trade agreement that India did with a major country. We're very excited that the military exercises between our countries have tripled over the last 10 years, and we're very excited that the Indian population of Australia, now more than 1 million people, that's a lot in my country, that's more than 4%, fastest growing foreign population in Australia, making a big contribution to our society. Those things are impelling our bilateral relations forward fast. So in this moment of global contestation, where there is so much uncertainty in the world, one thing that remains rock solid is the partnership between Australia and India. And frankly, with all that contestation, India becomes even more important to Australia.
Even though in the last 4 to 5 years, as per the global geopolitical scenarios, India has become, supporter and was a supporter, always been supporter of peace and non-violence. In the current scenario, whether it's about the EU, whether it's about the geopolitical scenarios in Russia, Ukraine, or any other scenarios, how do you think that India is playing a vital role in global peace?
Well, look, Australia and India both firmly believe in a rules-based order. That's important for us as small and medium-sized countries like Australia. India is a great power, but for us, in a world where the mighty are showing their ability to influence things more directly by power, for us, the multilateral order and a rules-based order which ensures that small and medium-sized countries have their place in the global scheme of things becomes even more important. And in that, Australia and India are vital partners, especially in our shared region, the Indo-Pacific.
The bilateral relations of India and Australia has become more stronger in the last 1 decade, but also the literature and art can play a vital role in current global scenario to have a peace. With camera person, Hamam Prasad, this is Lakshya Arya for DD India.
Well, a 4-member Indian delegation led by Sanjeev Kumar, Secretary for Defence Production, is visiting Kenya to enhance bilateral defence manufacturing capabilities. The visit aims to promote India's defence exports and foster industrial cooperation. The highlight will be India's participation in the 3rd India-Kenya Defence Exhibition in Nairobi. Exhibition is organised under the Brand India scheme of Department of Defence Production. The event will witness participation from 20 Indian defence companies from both public and private sectors, showcasing a wide range of defence products and services. And today marks the 21st erasing day of the National Disaster Response Force, India's frontline warriors in times of crisis and natural disasters. On this day, the NDRF completes 20 years of dedicated service, standing tall as the nation's most trusted disaster response force.
Every disaster leaves behind destruction, but it also brings forward heroes in uniforms. Today, as the nation marks the 21st Raising Day of NDRF, India salutes the force that arrives when hope seems lost. Raised on 19th January 2006, the National Disaster Response Force was formed under the Disaster Management Act of 2005. After the devastating lessons of natural calamities made it clear that India needed a specialized rapid response force for disasters. From floods and cyclones to earthquakes, landslides, industrial accidents and building collapses, the NDRF has become the backbone of India's disaster response system. Highly trained, well-equipped and always on standby, NDRF teams are often the first to reach ground zero. In the most hostile conditions, raging waters, unstable debris or collapsed structures, NDRF personnel risk their own lives to save others. Every operation is a race against time, and every life saved is a victory. Over the years, the force has played a crucial role during major disasters across the country, saving thousands of lives and helping communities rebuild after tragedy. Beyond rescue operations, the NDRF also focuses on disaster preparedness and awareness, training civilians and local authorities to respond better when emergencies strike. With specialized battalions, modern equipment and increasing participation of women responders, the NDRF continues to evolve, matching new challenges posed by climate change and urban disasters. Over the years, disaster management has received renewed focus at the national level. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the NDRF has seen great emphasis on capacity building, modern equipment, specialized training and faster deployment. From strengthening early response mechanism to improving coordination with state agencies and armed forces, the government's push has helped the NDRF respond more effectively to large-scale and complex disasters across the country. On this Raising Day, the nation remembers that when disaster strikes, help is never far away. Because for NDRF, service before self is not just a motto, it is a mission. In New Delhi, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
And on to some sports news now. Vidarbha scripted history in Bengaluru, defeating Saurashtra by 38 runs to clinch their maiden Vijay Hazare Trophy. The hero of the final, Atharva Taide, smashed a brilliant 128 of 118 balls, anchoring two massive partnerships with Aman Mukhade and Yash Rathore to propel Vidarbha to a formidable 317. Saurashtra's Ankur Panwar was the most economical with 65 runs for 4 wickets. However, Saurashtra's stays faltered early despite a resilient 93-run stand between Prerak Mankad and Chirag Jani. Vidarbha's pace duo Yash Thakur and Nachiket Bhute dismantled the opposition to bundle them out for 279. While Taide earned Player of the Match honours, Aman Mukhade was named Player of the Tournament for a staggering 814-run season. A clinical performance marks a landmark era for Vidarbha cricket. And Bolivia's city of La Paz launched 40 days of carnival on Sunday with the traditional Descentrio del Pepino ceremony, a symbolic ritual marking the rebirth of the city's iconic mysterious character, Pepino. Once revived, the Pepino leapt from his coffin wearing red and green, the colors of the La Paz flag, igniting the first major celebration of the 2026 carnival season as folkloric groups danced alongside the city officials. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.